The New York Giants 2022-2023 season is about to start, and we already got the New England Patriots coming in as the preseason game. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Breaking Tackles. Alongside with Manny, I am your host, Antonio Reyes. Guys, we got a full ship today, man. We got Brandon in the house. We got Sal in the house. And I'll go ahead and do formal introductions in a little bit. But I'm excited. We're finally back here. We're gonna see actual games. Enough of this. This was the longest offseason in my life, I feel like, guys. Just want to see how's everybody doing, man. Let's go around the table. Manny, let's start with you, man. And then we go to Brandon, then with Sal. How's everybody doing today, man?
Man, doing good. Happy to be back. Happy to be talking Giants football. Happy to be with Brandon, the authority of Gainesville. Happy to be with Sal, the authority of Queens. And it's a pleasure to be on with my brother Tone as well. And I'm excited, man. We got Thursday football coming up, and we're going to be able to have some live bullets to look at. So it's exciting.
Finally, some film to watch, man. Brandon, man, tell me what's good with you, man. How's been this offseason? And are you ready for your busy season? Because it's not just NFL for you, it's college ball, and it's not only just the Gators, man, but it's everything else, man. How's that going with you, man? Are you ready for that?
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, super excited, but I'm also like, I am not gonna have a single day to just chill. It's just simple as that. But it's gonna be good, you know. Taking a trip down to Gainesville this year for the first game, Florida, Utah, and then just straight Giants.
Nice, man. And that's going to be a lot of work, I'm assuming, too, while you're going to be down there, man. A lot of interviews, a lot of just getting people to know you, getting people to know you, man. And also, like, so that way when you're talking about people and stuff like that, they have a face behind the podcast, too, I'm assuming.
Yeah, we're going to do a live show at a bar. We got two live shows at bars on September 1st and 2nd. So we got two live shows coming up that it's going to be just awesome. It's at this place called The Social in Midtown in Gainesville, and it's just gonna be amazing. I'm so excited for it.
Sounds dope. Right. Sounds dope. Sal, man, I feel like you've been my kind of like we've been hearing we see eye to eye in this off season, man. It's been you've been keeping me insane, man, because unfortunately Manny kind of left Twitter on the off season, man. But I feel like you've been there for me. Kind of like trying to keep this Giants fan base, a lot of negativity, man, and there's a lot of positivity to see, and you've been very helpful with that, man. Let me tell you something. How's this offseason been for you? Because I feel like we have a lot in common with this offseason, how it was, and how excited are you to the season, man?
I'm definitely excited for football to start, man. I've been waiting since the season ended, since the quarterback sneaks. We were in hell. I've been waiting for a while. I feel pretty good about the offseason, man. We talked about this offline. I think that this roster is a lot better than people give it credit for overall, and I think they're moving in the right direction. So I like what they're doing, and I guess we can get into some of that later. But overall, I love what Shane and Dable are doing to build up this roster. So I'm pretty excited. I think we're going to see some pretty good football.
Absolutely. I also agree with that. And before we get into Giants stuff, I just want to, mention where you guys can catch these two gentlemen. Sal, always around the Giants community. You can catch him on Twitter, Queens_guy. Absolutely one of the smartest people when it comes to just Giants Twitter, man. I love interacting with people that actually could bring me facts, could talk football. Sal could definitely talk X's and O's, and Sal, I'm gonna be having you on the show as much as you want, brother, because you're definitely a smart mind, especially when it comes to Giants football. And obviously, we got Brandon here, man, who's a legend in the making, man. He keeps getting bigger and bigger, and I love it. Because again, I met Brandon at Bleacher Report, and I can't believe how much he's grown. And you got fans here, Brandon. So absolutely, man, you could catch Brandon. He is the founder of Whole Nine Sports. When it comes to draft season, we definitely go to Brandon just to get our scouting reports on Giants players and just players that were interested us regardless, even if they're not going to be the Giants. So before the Giants draft them, after the Giants draft them, we go to Brandon. Brandon also he is locked on Gators podcast, so that's also what he's taking care of. That's why we're saying he's gonna be busy this season. And then he got the newly appointed position, which is in writer for Giants Country. Correct? Am I right, Brandon?
Yes, sir. Got it all down.
So Brandon is gonna be extremely busy this season now for both college football and professional football. But it's gonna be fun to watch his stuff as he posts it. And Brandon, I'm looking forward, man, to just see what perspective you bring to the Giants, man. So are you gonna be is your articles and stuff like that gonna be on Twitter and able to see us on Twitter?
Yeah, everything's going to be shared on Twitter. It's going to be everywhere that I can possibly just shove my content down the throat is where my content will be.
That's awesome, man. Good to hear. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and go. And obviously, me and Manny are both on Twitter. Manny with a new handle, right, Manny? Get Agent Pusher 48. Is that where I'm going? Is that where's the new handle? Agenda Pusher.
Agenda Pusher 58, and it's simple. I have an agenda about certain things and different things and everything, and I got off of Twitter because I felt like a lot of things I was looking at was being influenced by Giants Twitter and Twitter in general and social media in general. And coupled with also, hot girl summer over here in Texas, we were busy this summer. So I definitely just wanted to unplug, unwind, be with the little one, be with my wife, our dog. And then, I just wanted to formulate my own stuff. So I have agendas to be pushed and agendas to be tweeted. So we're back.
I hear you, brother. I hear you, man. And we're back and glad to have you, brother. I needed my wingman. So that's good. Guys, off the bat, man, I think it was today, or if not yesterday, the latest, we got the unofficial first depth chart for the Giants. The names and the positions are pretty much what everybody was expecting. Is there anything that stands up for you guys? Like I would just say the one thing. There's a couple of things that stand out for me, and it's that Xavier McKinney. I'm sorry. Why is he not there anymore? O'Shane Ximines was behind Kayvon Thibodeau as a second string outside linebacker, but they call it rusher. And on the top of fact that they have, this is what I also found interesting, they have Dexter Lawrence as nose tackle, but then they have Leonard Williams as defensive tackle. Then they have Jihad Ward right now, which eventually will be a Cesar Jolari, as the defensive end. But then they have Kayvon as rusher. I don't even know what the Giants are running right now. But if you guys want to touch base on that or on anything else that you guys noticed on the depth chart, go for it, guys. The floor is open.
I'll say Quincy Roche being ducked behind O'Shane is insane to me. That's crazy. We were very high on Darian Beavers, but you assume Michael McFadden getting dropped over Darian Beavers that he would be above. But I mean, it looks like Darian Beavers is got that fast track to, I think, eventually take over that second linebacker spot behind Tay. Shout out birthday boy Xavier McKinney wearing the green dot. That's not a depth chart thing. That's just more of that's just a thing on the defensive side that's interesting. But one thing I'll say that I'm interested, I'm surprised that the punt returner and kick returner is going to be, and this is special teams obviously, but CJ Board is going to be returning in punt and kick. I thought that would have been like a Richie James thing, or somewhere along those lines. But I see Richie James is third on kick returns, and they have Darius Clayton backed up both punt and kick returns. So that's interesting because we've been talking about Darius Clayton. Where's his side on it? Where is he going to be on this team? What can he do? So he's not so much buried on the depth chart, but been buried in practice. So
that's the only thing that I would say though. So he might look ugly on this depth chart right now, but I feel like he's going to get the reps at punt return. Especially, remember, this is just the preseason. This is not the official day. It might be what we see on week one.
on the depth chart, he's second team. So you would have thought he would have been third, fourth team the way they had him going. But
well, that's the thing. But that's what I'm saying, Manny. So when I went to Giants practice, I saw Darius Clayton involved in a lot of stuff. So I was like, wait a minute. Like, people are just selling him a little bit short. Yes, he might not be with the ones, but he's getting reps with the two, which is weird. But then he was on kick return, on punt return. And I was just like, okay, this guy's involved in way too much stuff for the Giants just to cut him real quick. But we'll get on that. We'll get on that a little bit later. Brandon.
Brandon.
Oh, Sal. Let's go for Sal.
No, well, I was gonna say both of you guys. Either one of you guys that want to go first. How surprised are you that Tyrod Taylor's not starting?
Tyrod Taylor, stop.
I'm getting in trouble when I go to this topic. I catch nothing but grief on this issue. Let me hit up the depth chart thing. So nothing really stood out as being too crazy to me. Slayton, I know they have him listed on second team, and it's good to hear that he's taking kick returns, because before that he had like no special teams value. He's been running with the threes in real scrimmages.
I think he was making tackles on special teams. That's about it, right? No, not even that. Okay.
I would say number one wide receivers don't make tackles on special teams.
It's an unofficial depth chart, and the way I look at it is, your wide receiver 1, 2, and 3 are Gallaudet, Toney's, and Wandell.
Right.
You're gonna. I'm guessing Shep starts on IR, but if he doesn't, he's your 4. And then you got to pick 2 guys who are going to fill out the roster and fill out needs, and they should have some sort of value beyond just wide receiver. So I think Richie James should make this team. I think he's earned it. He was a really good kick returner in San Francisco, and he has a similar skill set to Wandell and to Toney, but he is a talented player, and he can play a lot of special teams.
And that's not a bad thing either. That's exactly what we need, depth at that type of skill position. Yeah.
These change of direction guys kind of fit that mold of what you're looking for in the KC, Buffalo style middle of the field run offense. To me, Slayton, he's wide receiver 5 or 6, maybe. And his cap hit is $2.5 million with a dead cap of only $500,000. So he has $2 million in savings if you move on from the guy, right?
Before the season, correct?
Correct. You got to make this call before opening day, right? Before the first game, opening roster at least. So I just think numbers game. If I were a betting man, I would say that I would bet that Slayton is not on this roster by the time week 1 rolls around. The rest of the depth chart, I think, kind of filled out the way I expected it to. I know Shane's a little higher than people would have thought, but he's earned it. I mean, if you watch the way he's been playing this so far, he's been really doing a good job with the speed rush, and he offers something there in the wing system. So I think what they're doing is they're rewarding guys for competitive play. I'm okay with that.
Brandon, go right ahead. Anything stands out for you in this in the depth chart so far?
I don't know if I necessarily say that it stands out, but just like looking at that front 4, we'll say, because but looking at that front 4, it's just very exciting. Like seeing Dexter Lawrence at the nose tackle, so he's going to be head up with that center, and he's just going to be pushing that pocket, because I bashed this kid when he came out.
Oh, I know. I have you recorded.
He shut me up so quick. And then you got Leo, who's listed as D tackle, but he's going to be 3 tech. Azeez Ojulari listed at DN, still going to be outside the tackle. And the opposite side with Rush is Kayvon Thibodeau. I mean, that's something that Wink Martindale is bringing over from Baltimore, where he had that rush linebacker, is just what he called it. It's just that pass rusher. It's what Odafe Oweh played last year with the Ravens, and he cooked with that. And it's just going to be, this defense is just a pressure cooker in itself. So that front 4 is just something that I'm incredibly excited for. And then, I know Sal mentioned it with Richie James, where he's like, he should keep Richie James. He's a special team value. And it's like, absolutely. Richie James should be on this team as a special team. Yes, he could play the mold, or he fits that same mold as Wandell and Kadarius Toney, and he's just shifty, and he's going to snatch not just your ankles, but your ACL, your MCL, and every other ligament you got in your legs. But it's also just having that special team value from someone who you're not really going, you need to be a focal point of the offense. Like Wandell, we've seen Wandell in practice. He's going in motion into the backfield and orbiting out and then taking these swings. And Kadarius, when he's healthy, can be a complete game breaker. The dude is just NFL street personified.
Exactly.
So then having Richie James as the special teamer that can do what they do on special teams
That's a great
without
point.
having the offensive responsibility is just like it can't be overstated at this point.
Right, because I wouldn't want to be honest, me personally, I wouldn't want to see Wandell or Tony in special teams right now in terms of kick returns or punt returns. Definitely not kick returns, but in punt, I don't even think you would put those small guys in kick returns. But in punt returns, I wouldn't want to see them neither because it's like we're gonna be asking so much from you guys as starters that leave that for somebody else. Let anyone else give that a shot. So yeah, if Richie James could come in and hey, if one of these guys are banged up for a game or two, and he could fill in that role with them without no heartbeat missing, it's the same ticks. That's perfect. That's exactly what I would want. And anything else that before we move on to the depth chart, anything else you guys stand out? Anything maybe that you would say, Manny, go ahead, and then anything maybe say, hey, we might have to bring some people in here, maybe after the preseason is over.
I see Neymar Skehan in the chat. He said New York Giants 11-6. Guys, don't forget about Wandale and Daniel Bellinger. But then he also said Keelan Doss is going to take over Slayton's spot. Keelan Doss, the other number 5 on the Giants. That's like I think he's going to be a preseason star. That'll be fun. Obviously the one position that I think anybody is going to say should, if you're going to bring anybody in, bring in cornerbacks. Bring in the depth there. Not necessarily guys. At this point, there's not going to be guys on the street or in practice. That's going to be a starter. Mm-hmm. I know DeAndre Baker's out there, but I mean a starter who's going to be playable. I think I would if they took a flyer on DeAndre Baker, cool, because this is the perfect system for him to be in, man to man. So, I mean, if he was a man to man corner in Georgia,
right?
He'd be playing the man to man as well here. So I'd be interested. And if you're going to get a flyer on him, fuck it, go ahead. But no, obviously cornerback is the one position I think you look at. Tight end as well, because Daniel Bellinger, as much as we're all fans of his,
right?
Right now it's him and Chris Myrick, which I think would have been a joke a few weeks back if you would have said that.
The tight end room is scary right now, to be honest. Yes.
Yeah, but granted,
and not scary good.
But from what you've seen in practice, and you've been at practice, I'm sure you guys have seen it more than I have. But apparently, in this scheme, the tight end isn't a focal point, and on the Giants side, he's probably like 4th, 5th option when you consider the wide receivers, the top 4 wide receivers, and Saquon, who's a receiving threat.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a lot of 10 personnel, not see wide receivers out there at all.
So so Daniel Bellinger can block somewhat better. If he could be a younger version of what Kyle Rudolph was for us next year, cool. Obviously, cornerback is the one position, because obviously one of those top guys, Adoree, who's been having a great camp, the Aaron Robinson also been having a good camp. If any of those guys go down, then that's a big blow. So.
Nah, absolutely. Sal, I want to go back to the thing you said where you think that Darius Clayton could possibly be a cut. How many wide receivers you think are gonna be in the roster? Make the roster. And then which wide receivers make the roster? Just give me a little small list here.
I'm sure you guys have done the sort of the mental creating the roster and where you take away a piece where you don't. I actually think they're going to carry 6 wide receivers when I look at it, and like I said, Tony, Gallaudet, Wandell. Mm-hmm. Let's assume Shep is healthy for the sake of the argument, right?
Is Shep gonna be a go for week 1? That's what they're saying. Okay, we don't know that.
We don't know yet.
Okay.
I think it's unlikely. He'll probably start on the pup or something. But okay, fine. You want to?
So let's leave him off. Let's just say he's pup.
Okay, fine. You got the top 3.
Sure.
You've got James. You've got. I actually think. The
Sills.
I'm sorry.
You're gonna give it a Sills? You're gonna give a spot to Sills?
No.
Okay.
No. He doesn't make any of my teams.
Okay.
I think that. Now I'm blanking on his name. The kid we got from Carolina. Why am I blanking on his name? The bigger target.
CJ Board?
No, last year.
Colin?
Picked him up. Yeah, Colin Johnson. Sorry.
Colin Johnson.
He's from Jacksonville. Oh, he went to UT. By the way, took him.
I think Johnson has been playing pretty well so far in training camp. So you got him, you've got James, you got the other three. That's 5 right there. So I think the 6th position, if I'm going with 6, is going to be a guy who has some special teams value. Now you can make a case that you can carry Darius Clayton right now
Until
but
Shep comes
uh,
back.
yeah. But in my opinion, I think if you're going to use him as a wide receiver 5 or 6. There's not a lot of value there for the salary he's making. I probably would give that position to somebody like C.J. Board and just let him go, honestly,
Really?
or Keelan Doss, whoever wins out. But I just think it's a numbers game. That extra $2 million of space, you think it's not important, but somebody goes down in October and you need to find someone. You need that cap space, and you want that cap space available if you need another offensive lineman or a defensive back, or do you want to have Darius Slayton riding the bench all season? That's how I look at it.
Nah, I got you. Makes 100% sense. All right, let's talk a little bit about the noise that's going on in Giants community. I'll start with first, and this is mostly coming out of Charlie's, everybody's favorite Twitter handle. Evan Neal has been on the floor a lot in Giants training camp. Is that a concern to you guys? And I go with you, Brandon, then Manny, and then Sal.
No. It's as simple as I'm not going to put a ton of weight into that. It's just not what I'm going to do where I'm going to overact to a guy's first training camp in the NFL. That's not something that's going to happen. He's going against, a phenomenal front four, like I've said before. Like, it is truly a great front four. But no, I don't generally care about that. This is going to be an offensive line that they're going to go through their lumps, and we like, or at least I like, most of the personnel that they've added. You've got 2 young bookend tackles there. You've got some promise on the inside, I'll say. But I'm not going to put a ton of weight into this guy's first NFL camp and be like, oh, he sucks now. He was a phenomenal pick when he got drafted, and he's going to work out, but he's going to have his lumps, and that's just what it's going to be. It also could be that, he hasn't played right tackle in a while. Maybe he's just getting readjusted to getting his feet positioned properly and getting set back, and that. So it could be a number of things, but it's nothing that's concerning me about Evan Neal.
Makes sense. Manny, what about you, man? Do you do any fear in this?
No. I was more fearful that he was going to keep 70. So I'm glad he changed that. Now he's going to be an All-Pro. I'm not worried because remember last year the preseason game, the 3rd preseason game that they all played in the starters, and Andrew Thomas did not look good. And everyone was kind of just sounding the alarms on it.
That's where I'm at.
And then he ended up being, arguably a top 10 tackle in the league.
Yeah.
So
not
arguably, man. That's being humble.
No arguments from me, but I'm trying to be humble.
Right.
I think Evan Neal's going to be fine, and I'm excited because on that long list of things we're excited for, his development is what I'm super excited for. Going from Nate Solder to Evan Neal, man, that's going to look completely different, regardless of those rookie woos that he's going to have.
Absolutely. Sal, I don't even got to say nothing because I'm on the same page as you. Sal, you could finish, you could strike out the pitcher. You strike out the side, I guess.
Yeah. No, I'm definitely not concerned. And there are some pretty valid reasons for it, I would say. When he was being drafted, if there was a knock on Evan Neal, it was that he would occasionally have a narrow stance and lose balance because he would lunge. That's not because of a personal trait. That's what they teach at Alabama. These guys overpower their competition. And so the teaching on the linemen there, and you saw this from Jonah Williams, you saw this from Jedrick Willis when they came out, they just try to overpower guys. They lunge. That's sort of what they're taught. So I think some of his natural initial traits are going to be, when I get a rusher, I'm going to try to muscle him. And that's fine. But if you get a guy with a quick counter move who can go around the edge, or a speed rusher, that's going to get you in the NFL. I think this was expected, right? You fully expected him to have some of these issues. So number one, it's a footwork issue. He's going to have to work on it. He will work on it. Footwork is the one thing they can fix at the NFL level. You saw Andrew Thomas make adjustments, and you look at the guy now, and he's just incredible. Evan Neal has that kind of talent. And number two, he is a right tackle. There's a shift, but, that's going to be the strong side, right? If Daniel Bellinger has a role on this team, you don't expect him to block all the time, but, in sets where you have dominant edge rusher setting up opposite, Evan Neal and you don't want to leave him on an island, that's why you have Daniel Bellinger, right? So I think you're going to ease
That's
the
a
guy
great
into this
point.
game.
That's a great point.
Yeah, so I think by this time next year, I can confidently predict that both Neal and Thomas will be able to sit on an island and hold their bookends. And this year, he's going to need a little help. That doesn't bother me. That's exactly what I expected.
All right, no, that sounds good, man. And
Sounds awesome.
And I didn't even really think about that. Like, hey, listen, you could pretty much leave Andrew Thomas in an island, on an island, and you just have to worry about maybe helping out a little bit to help out a Neal, because it's true. And one of the things that I don't know why I forgot about this is how bad our blocking scheme and our protection scheme was last year. Like, those things you can't even take for granted. Like, you couldn't even take it for granted. Like, oh, obviously, let's help out Soldier with something. Like, no, sometimes Soldier would be, like, absolutely left in an island so he could go ahead and just get Daniel Jones killed. So, that's crazy, man. I shouldn't be taking those things for granted, and I hope, that we do see some blocking schemes when there's games that, either Neal or Thomas are just gonna need help, and hopefully we see that from this coaching staff. Now, I mentioned that Neal, and you guys we're all in the same, situation here where we're saying we're not concerned. All right, now, what about New York's favorite player, Daniel Jones? So far, an up and down camp. I'll start first. And I'll surprise people, and I'll say this: I am not concerned. The reason why I'm not concerned is this is what we've seen out of Daniel Jones. This is nothing new. So I can't get nothing. I'm not getting anything off of practice and bad throws and whatnot, because he doesn't have live bullets chasing after him. Everything is stopping in the thing right in front of his face. I'm going to be concerned preseason week 1, this Thursday, if he looks like trash. That's just me. Manny, what's your take on this?
I guess I'm going to surprise you too, bro. I'm not concerned either.
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised.
Because I don't care. About Daniel Jones.
That's surprising.
And listen, bro, I've been on this show since we've started, since you and I've talked, I've been a Daniel Jones supporter. I've been on his side saying he hasn't gotten a good rap. He's had the worst GM in the world.
Which is all true.
Ever.
Which is all true.
I'd rather take like, the guidance counselor in my middle school to be a GM over Dave Gettleman. We had Joe Sludge, who spent 8 hours a day watching special teams tape, and then let Jason Garrett, who does no business calling any plays for any NFL team in this day and age, and pretty much let Patrick Graham do his thing on his side. He had terrible coaching. We already talked about how bad the offensive line is, that wide receivers and running back in and out of the lineup. I get all of that. That's 100% true. But Aaron Rodgers got Mike McCarthy a ring. So anything is possible nowadays when it comes to, if you have that guy, if you have that quarterback, if you have, that dude. Patrick Mahomes didn't have the best offensive line in some moments of his career, and he still balled and did his thing. Some games weren't great, but he still prevailed. Josh Allen didn't have the best offensive line, same thing. And yeah, he had, Stephon Diggs, and Dawson Knox is nice, but do you think Dawson Knox is nice with another quarterback who's not elite? At this point, what we saw in that game between the Chiefs and the Bills is that if you don't have a dude, you don't have a chance. So to be honest, when it comes to Daniel Jones, I would love for him to ball out, be that guy, and show it and prove that he deserves that extension, deserves to be considered the future of New York. I would love that. That would be awesome. But I'm a realist at this point. That ayahuasca trip that I took was just what I needed to open my mind and realize it's not about this year. This year would be awesome if the Giants win, but to be honest, it's about the development of Kayvon Thibodeau, the development of Evan Neal, Andrew Thomas taking that next step, Xavier McKinney taking that next step, Dexter Lawrence taking that next step, Leonard Williams, can he get that stride again? Julian Love, what is he going to do? It's a contract year. Darnay Holmes, what's he going to do? He has a big spot in his defense as well, too. At this point, Daniel Jones is like 6th, 7th on my list.
Manny, what's the next step for Xavier McKinney, who had an all-pro season last year, and with the exception of being called all-pro? To get the all-pro name?
to get that All-Pro. Exactly.
I got you.
There's way more things on this team I'm concerned with, and it's not Daniel Jones. Because worst case scenario, we're going to get the dude from the swamp to be our quarterback. And I cannot wait to talk to Brandon and just continue to bother him about AR.
Brandon, go ahead, man. What are you concerned on Jones?
Nah, I'm in Manny's boat. I don't give a shit. There's not a single thing I care about with Daniel Jones. Like, I've seen what I need to see. Unless he makes significant strides, don't care. Like no. I've seen what he is. I know what he is.
Right.
Unless he suddenly comes out significantly different, which, I mean, you mentioned that, like, we've seen him do this before in camp. Mm-hmm. He goes up and down and he does these things, and then he comes out in the regular season and, for the most part, stinks.
It's a dud.
I'm expecting nothing new from him.
Right.
I'm expecting maybe higher efficiency numbers, since, like Sal mentioned, like, we're going to attack the middle of the field a lot more often. That's what Brian.
That's what he's good at.
That's what Mike Kafka wants to do. They're going to attack the middle of the field, and that might be Daniel Jones' strength.
Mm-hmm.
But at a certain point, you can see when the scheme is elevating the player and when the player is elevating the scheme and the team around him. And Daniel Jones is, simply put, not capable of doing that. So I don't care what he looks like right now. I don't care what he looks like in the preseason. Catch you week 1 and see what you're looking like then, and then maybe we'll talk. But I'm not expecting anything new.
Strong. Sal, go ahead, brother.
Yeah, I'm trying to work my way to where Brandon and Manny are.
Yeah, me too, yo. I thought I should have been there already. Now I'm feeling bad now that I'm not there.
Yeah, and you and I talked about it. Part of the reason, I guess, if I'm irritated or I still care, part of the reason is because I'm someone who fundamentally looks at this roster and I don't see a terrible roster. I don't see a bottom 10 roster.
I don't. Right.
Yeah.
I see a middle of the pack roster that, with good quarterback play, can absolutely get in the playoffs and can make some noise. That's how I look at this team, right? And then you walk into the, you look at the training camp, you see the defense flying, because remember, going into training camp, the question was, what is this defense going to look like, with all the changes? And you see these guys playing at an elevated level of speed, which is exactly what we wanted to see. And you started getting hope that, hey, this defense is going to keep us in games. You see guys, offensive playmakers, who are out there hustling, making plays. And you start thinking to yourself, the line's a little better. There are playmakers everywhere. The defense is flying. And then you see what Saquon's doing. We haven't even touched on him, and he looks as explosive as he's looked in 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then you realize that, like, it all drops into this black hole of the quarterback, like, because the guy who touches the ball every play basically looks incompetent right now. Now, I'm not going to go completely crazy. I agree with you. You got to see preseason. You got to see what he does in Tennessee week 1, right? I mean, I'm willing to do that, obviously, and I've obviously. I put up a lot of polls just for fun to see how Giants fans would react to certain situations with players and what it would take for them to re-sign players. And I've gotten into Twitter space discussions, kind of morphing into arguments.
Right.
Yeah, because I've said things like, for me, for Daniel Jones to get a contract or even a franchise tag after this year, he has to convince Brian Dable and Joe Shane that they're going to be competing for Super Bowls with him every single year, or at least most years, right? He has to elevate to that level where at the end of this year they can say, this is the guy who's going to lead our team towards Super Bowl contention on a regular basis. And if he can't do that, you cannot commit 15 to 20% of your salary cap space to this guy, which is what a quarterback costs, right? So when you look at it, probability of him being back next year is close to 0, to be totally honest. I mean, he'd have to elevate to a level that he has never played at in the NFL.
And even if he does, he's most likely just gonna get a franchise tag. They're gonna tell him, "Prove it to me again," right?
Right. So I'm sort of working my way to where Manny and Brandon are on this. But part of me is bothered by the fact that I see all these other young guys on this roster hustling, and I think we're gonna see, like, these guys play fast, right? Speed we haven't seen in a while, and it may just be completely sunk by the quarterback, right? And that can have a detrimental effect on the locker room. And I mean, these are professionals; they're trying to get paid, right? And to me, you cannot tell 52 other men, bust your ass, kill yourself, fight for playing time, but this guy, he doesn't have to compete for a spot. He doesn't have to produce. He doesn't have to practice well. It's his job. That, as a professional, that doesn't sit well with me. I cannot imagine how it sits in a locker room.
Yeah.
This is not Aaron Rodgers. You know what I mean? This is a guy who's never done it before. how is that going to be perceived by the rest of the team? That's my big question. That's where I'm bothered.
That's a great point. And one thing that I actually mentioned when I heard you say that before, Sal, was that this is a really tricky situation where the coach and the front office can lose the team in year one if they handle this like shit. If they say, even if this team, because I'm agreeing with you, and listen, and I feel like this team is so talented that if there was a different quarterback there, and with the schedule that we're facing, this could be a 10-win season. If we had a top 15 quarterback, this would be a 10-win team. Because my philosophy in sports in general is up the middle. If you're good up the middle, you're going to be fine. On defense, our nose tackle, defensive tackle, I would put those two at an elite level. They're going to stop the run. There's not going to be much running against us. Our linebackers, good. Not great, not elite. They're good. They're really good run-stopping linebackers. Our safety, our free safety, elite. So we have 2 elite positions on defense. 1 good position on offense. Feliciano, on offense, question mark. We don't know him. He hasn't been good, but he thinks that he's going to be good at center. He said, nobody has given me an opportunity. We're going to see. Daniel Jones, terrible so far, right? But then we have an elite running back behind Jones. So we have possibly, maybe, okay, good. Feliciano has looked really good on camp. So I'll give him that. He looked good in camp. Daniel Jones is a negative. And then we got an elite running back. So up the middle for the Giants, it looks pretty good. And I refuse to believe that this team, even with Daniel Jones there, is still going to be losing a lot of games. I don't know, man. It's very conflicting right now.
It's hard to win in the NFL if your quarterback don't win good. I mean, that's the reality, right? And I think that's so. How can this spiral out of control is my concern, right? Like you have guys playing fast, playing hard, Saquon killing it, defense getting the ball back, and you can if Daniel Jones does not master this offense, and when I say master that, you know, he's never going to be like one of the top 7-8 quarterbacks. I think he just doesn't have the talent for that. But when I say master it, I mean unless he's out there turning drives into touchdowns and finishing games on his back at the end of each game, 2-minute drills, putting the ball in the end zone, winning games, basically doing things he has not done very much in his career. You know, unless he's doing those things, at some point, guys in the locker room are just kind of looking at this guy sideways, right? And I just feel like that's where things can go off the rail. And losing escalates, right? We saw that last year where Joe Judge, you know, week 14, week 15, we were hearing reports like, oh, he's safe. There's nothing that can cost this guy his job. You know what cost him his job? Losing. It spiraled out of control.
It looked like they were tanking at one point, and it was like he was bitching at the Eagles for tanking two seasons ago, and this year and last year it looked like he was tanking by some of the actions that he was taking.
So losing, it takes on a life of its own. It spirals, right? Just like winning can. And if you start losing a lot of games, and you're losing specifically because your QB play is not good when everybody else is playing well, to me, that can create a problem in the locker room, right? And I think the best way, if I'm Brian Dable right now, I respect him. He knows a hell of a lot more than I'll ever know. But if I'm him, I'll see what happens Thursday. But if this guy looks bad on Thursday, he shouldn't. I mean, he's going to face basically vanilla defenses. He's probably going to be facing like soft zone against New England, right?
Right.
But if he can't complete passes and he looks lost there, the next practice, I really do think they should let Tyrod Taylor get first-team reps. And I think you should at least force these guys to compete. I'm not saying I love Tyrod Taylor. I really don't think he's all that great. But I just think you should compete for the job.
Okay,
and
so
that's how I feel about it.
Now that you brought up Taylor, I'm going to ask you, Brandon, this question. People are on Twitter, I see this a lot, saying, we know what Tyrod Taylor is. We don't know what Daniel Jones is. What would you reply to those people?
I would tell them to take the very few brain cells that work and watch Tyrod Taylor. But aside from that, I'd say, because I was going to bring this up too, because I mean, Tone, you mentioned it with you're essentially just giving Daniel Jones the keys to this offense, and Sal, you were like, we should make them compete. Fuck yeah, they should compete. Like it makes no sense because here's the thing with the way that this roster is shaped up. Yes, you have good players at your skill positions. Your running back can be elite, but at the end of the day, the best ability is availability, and that simply hasn't been the case with him too much. So we'll see if he stays healthy this year, actually.
Right.
But when you look at quarterback and you look in the backfield, you have, I mean, Davis Webb, we can completely exclude from this conversation. Ain't gonna happen. But yeah, but we could talk about Daniel Jones. We could talk about Tyrod Taylor.
Right.
And when you talk about them, you got two guys who are not really going to push the ball downfield willingly. That's just not necessarily what they do. You can look at what happened with Kenny Gallaudet. Every year in Detroit that Kenny Gallaudet was productive, it was when he was allowed to attack the middle of the field downfield or attack the sidelines downfield. He's a deep threat without the speed. He's just gonna moss people, and he's just gonna say fuck you on the way down, and he's just gonna keep going there. But neither of these quarterbacks are gonna do that. It's as simple as that. Tyrod Taylor's not gonna do it, and Daniel Jones is not gonna do it. Neither of these quarterbacks are just gonna say let him hang and throw it downfield. That ain't happening. So why not give Tyrod Taylor the first team reps? Because Daniel Jones is incredibly volatile, and he's proven that he's going to be volatile. He's going to fumble the ball 15, 20 times this season. He's going to throw another 10 to 12 picks. Tyrod Taylor is not going to put the team on his back and carry this team to the Super Bowl or anything.
But he's not going to lose the game either.
That's the thing. Neither of these quarterbacks are going to be the type where it's like, they're going to win us the game. But Tyrod ain't going to lose the game for you. And for that, I'm like, I think that's my biggest issue with Brian Daboll right now. It's actually my only issue with Brian Daboll right now. Is just let Tyrod at least compete for the starting job, because you've got two quarterbacks who are average at their absolute best, but one of them is going to throw the game, is going to give the game to the other team. One of them is not.
Anything.
I also
go ahead, Sam.
I'm sorry. I also disagree with this idea that I think I heard somebody else say it on a pod today and other places, like, well, you know what Tyrod is, but you don't know what Daniel Jones is. I mean, do you really not know what Daniel Jones is? You know what he is. I mean, it's fair to say that he's been in a crap situation. All that is
100%, right?
But at the end of the day, like, through all of the different crap situations, his performance has been remarkably consistent. You know, like in a lot, and I'm not talking about statistics. I'm talking about the way he plays the game, right? The way he processes.
He doesn't go above and beyond, right?
Right. He does not quickly read defenses. He just cannot mentally process teams quickly. He does not have he never will have the arm talent to make really great tight window throws, right? I'm not talking about when you loft the ball up 50 yards in the air. I'm talking about if there's a guy across the hash 15 yards down the field and
Brett Favre kind of shit.
Right. I mean, because in the NFL, you don't get 5 yards of separation. Separation is like you can see the guy's left hand reach out and you have a step, right? And the confident quarterbacks who know their arm can sling it into that spot, they throw that ball. They take that chance, right? We brought in Kenny Gallaudet, like Brandon's saying.
I know where you're going with this.
He's the worst separator in the NFL, and he always has been. That's not his game. His game is I'm going to truck it down the field or over the middle. My quarterback is going to sling it at me, and I am going to basically win a jump ball.
It's a 60-40 for him. Yeah, it's not a 50-50.
But for him to be successful, his quarterback has to have the guts to throw it in that window and the ability to get it up where his receiver has a good shot to win. I hate Jason Garrett. But do you really believe? I think there were only 4 contested catches they threw towards Gallaudet, like in the red zone or something all year. It was something crazy, some ridiculous number, 4 times, right? Do you really believe that there were only 4 opportunities?
Yeah,
4 opportunities to throw the ball to Kenny Gallaudet in the red zone all year. I don't buy that, right?
Right.
I feel like Daniel Jones got in the red zone. He stepped back. He looked at his targets, and he wanted somebody with a lot of separation because he doesn't have the confidence to throw his guy over.
Yeah.
And to win those arm talent throws, right? And so that's what. So Kenny Gallaudet was he was a non-option. So I kind of know what he is, right? He's at best maybe a game manager. I don't think he has upper level talent. So yeah, like you know what he is. You know what Tyrod is. Let them compete. Maybe they can elevate each other, but I don't like the idea that you just hand the job to somebody.
Yeah, and also like going back to Kenny Gallaudet as well. 2019, you look at his I mean, his best season as a pro, 1,200 yards on 65 catches, 11 touchdowns. You look at that season, and he was targeted deep downfield on 32% of his targets. 32% of his targets were deep downfield. You look at 2021, which was an awful year, 18.5%. It's just an insane drop where it's like you're paying this guy money to not use him properly. It's just one of those things where it was grossly irresponsible on the last coaching staff and the last front office to pay Kenny Gallaudet and not have the proper game plan to use him. But it's also like you don't have the quarterback to use him. So it was a horrible decision on top of that. I love Kenny Gallaudet. I think he's great at what he does. But he is essentially a one-trick pony. You mentioned the contested catches. He wins them. Sal said it. He's the worst separator in the NFL. And you don't have the quarterback that's not even – I'm legitimately not even saying that he can or can't make tight window throws. I'm saying he won't attempt them.
That's exactly what Sal's saying too. Yep.
Right.
Yeah, it's also batshit crazy because it's like you suck when you're not making those crazy throws. Like you turn it over when you're not throwing those incredibly risky throws. Why not just chuck it at that point?
Yeah.
Is he?
And I think with that, I mean, it's like everyone's saying, "Oh, wait a minute." No, regardless if you want Tyrod or if you want Daniel, the other people's side is like, "Well, what happens if this dude gets us to like 7-6 wins? We don't make it to the playoffs, but we're not in the top 10 or this and that." I don't care about that. My perfect case scenario is that whoever the quarterback is takes us to the playoffs. We lose the first round, and then we go ahead and call up whoever's in the top 5 that's willing to let us move up. Give them our first 3 rounders for the next year and 2, and then go from there.
Right.
At this point, I don't care what the draft selection is by the time the season ends, because by the time April hits 2023, that's not the case.
Right.
I could see any team who wants to go in and get their quarterback if they're out of the top 10. So that missed me with that. I don't care about that. As far as whoever starts, again, everyone says our team isn't very good this year anyway, so it doesn't matter who's going to start. I really, honestly, I think the ceiling is 9 wins regardless of who starts. I just think they should make it more of a competition like you guys have, and this Thursday is going to be interesting. Because also another thing Dable hasn't mentioned, just because they're going to start doesn't mean, like, what if this situation where Daniel Jones, you're out of the game, Tyrod, you going with the ones. That would be more. That to me would be way more impactful than giving him the ones in practice reps.
Yeah.
Give him the ones in the first preseason game. That would mean more.
He's
to
so
me
far. He's only gotten 1 rep with the ones this offseason so far.
Yeah.
So it was I think last week or something like that, or this week.
It was a couple of days ago. Because David wanted to talk to Jones about a play. Yeah.
Okay.
So these preseason games, if Tyrod Taylor gets any snaps with the ones, I think that's more impactful than him getting the reps in practice with the ones. So, it'll be fun.
I would say this too. I think that my dream scenario is the Giants make playoffs regardless of quarterback, and they lose first round. And same thing you say, man. Either, in my opinion, I think we're gonna see every offseason from here on out, at least maybe either every other offseason or every offseason where there's gonna be a disgruntled quarterback who's a top 10, top 15 quarterback who's gonna want out of whatever team they're in. It's just. Money.
Right.
It's too much money involved nowadays in the NFL.
And to that point, this is why I care about winning, right? Because I think it's harder to build a culture of winning for an entire organization than it is to like get the right draft pick.
Right.
And draft picks are a big crapshoot.
So
right?
random. That shit is random, man.
Random. And who the number 1 projected quarterback in the 2022 draft was a year ago today? It was Sam Howell.
Yeah.
Okay. He went in the 5th round.
Right.
So
Sorry, I would just like to cut in real quick to say, never did I say Sam Howell was even a first round pick.
You're a smart man, Brandon. There are several of them that came out, right around this time last year. They're like Sam Howell talent. he's going to be like the top quarterback off the board. So he's a top 5
It was
pick.
between like him and Spencer Rattler.
Yo, Manny, remember we saw
Right,
film on him, and I was like, yo, I do not like his film, yo. He looks so scared, like behind his offensive line. But yeah.
Well, that's my point. Right? Like, it's kind of hard to predict like this far out what the quarterback class is really going to look like.
Right,
you don't know who's going to fall
man.
off. You don't know who's going to emerge.
Don't know what the hell is going to happen.
I will say this though, and we can go into this later, but the quarterback class coming out next year is not only strong in some of the higher end talent, specifically down in Gainesville, but we all have that agenda. But it also is pretty deep. And I don't know, Brendan, if you've studied the class, but there are probably 6, 7 guys deep who have unique physical characteristics and traits and talent that are moldable clay guys that I think would have been viewed as the top echelon of this year's class or above them, right? So there is a lot of room for maneuvering there. So me personally, I believe you got to create a culture of winning. You win as many games as you can by being competitive and having the right culture. When the draft comes, You do what you got to do to get your guy, and you figure it out. That's just my personal view on it. Like you said, you could do the Los Angeles Rams thing. You can build a great roster, be ready to have everything ready to go, and say the draft is a crapshoot. I'm not banking on that. I'm trading my ones.
Fuck them kids. Fuck them picks. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
I mean, that has been there, and it wins. I mean, it may not be great for 10-year plan, but they won a Super Bowl, right?
And you will see those teams where you're going to see a quarterback like Stafford, where he doesn't look good. He hasn't. You know that he has the capability of putting up big numbers, but he hasn't done it in a while on his team. And you just take him out of that bad environment, move him to a way better environment, and you get a potential freaking MVP and definitely a Super Bowl MVP. So I agree with you, Sal. And if listen, and I hate going to Madden, but if you're playing franchise in Madden, the more games you win, the better your team develops. That's real life, bro. That's real life. Your team will get better in winning situations when you've developed a culture of winning. Your team is gonna be better used to tight pressure situations than instead of going an entire season with, we're down 14 points every freaking game. We don't know what pressure is. We've never played under pressure. So exactly. that is definitely my thing, where it's like I could definitely see the 49ers scenario playing out this year, where Garoppolo could take us as far as he can. Whoever the quarterback is going to take us as far as he can. And then it's like, you know what? Thank you so much. Even though we had a successful season, we got to go find ourselves a real quarterback this year. Guys, let's end this now. But real quick, let's talk a little bit about what you guys are looking for in this preseason game. Obviously, Manny and Brandon already said that they really don't care about Jones. What do you guys care about in preseason week 1? And I go with you, Manny. What are you looking for?
Yeah. Obviously the starters, how long they're gonna play, how they're looking. But I'm also looking at one guy specifically who's fighting for a QB spot, Zion Gilbert. My man played 5 seasons at Florida Atlantic. He finished having over 300,000 yards, 300,000 snaps. He had an 82.9 coverage rating as well. He appeared in over 60 games in 5 years. He played slot, outside corner, which was primarily what he played. And then he played both free and strong safety. So versatility. This coaching staff has mentioned it a lot. They love versatility. They love guys that can be interchangeable pieces on the defense. And, I mean, as far as size, he's 6'1", about 180 pounds. So he's a pretty decent-sized cornerback. And I think obviously the cornerback coach that we have, his name is drawing blank for me right now, but they've all said he's the best corner. He's the best secondary coach in the NFL.
Jerome Henderson.
Obviously, Jerome Henderson. We've seen what he's done with, James Bradbury in 2020. Xavier McKinney had his breakout last year. Julian Love is continuing to ascend. He's not been, he doesn't look like he's getting any worse. I'm very interested to see Zion Gilbert. He'll probably get to rub with the twos, and I think if I'm not mistaken, he's the second string right now. So he'll get rubs against the twos, against the threes. I'm sure they're going to have him playing center. Safety as well. I think he could be a dude that could be surprisingly well. I'm not saying, a great player, a guy who's going to be, a 10-year starter, but I think a guy who can add some depth and some youth and some length to this team.
Did you get to scout him? I know he's not from Florida, but did you get to scout him a little bit, Brandon?
No, I didn't have Zion Gilbert this year.
Gotcha, copy.
Hey, undrafted. He was an undrafted dude, so he was definitely outside of that list.
And
but,
Florida Atlantic, is that a big school?
No, but
Okay.
I saw him last year because Florida played Florida Atlantic, so I saw him a little bit, but I didn't evaluate him at all.
Copy.
And Florida just beat the shit out of them the entire time. So,
I'm guessing.
Hard to evaluate that. It is what it is.
Sal, tell me what are you looking for this preseason game coming up?
Yeah, so on the offense, I'm not looking for a whole heck of a lot, except if there's the disaster scenario where Jones just stinks it up in the time he has, because I do think that's going to start the rumblings. But we already talked about that. I like the way Manny's talking about some of the guys competing for the back end roster spots. I think that's important. So I'll give you another UDFA cornerback who I loved when they signed, and I think he's actually showing out nicely. Darren Evans. Yeah, he's a big dude. He's 6'3", 30. I think he has 34-inch arms. He has the length. The guy he's quick. He's twitchy. He played at Nicholls State for a few years, and he transferred to LSU, the real DBU. No offense, Ohio State guys. But he was buried in the depth chart. Behind guys like
he's like the swamp
Stingley. All right. Stingley, Rick, Cordell Flott. He was buried, so this guy didn't get a lot of run, but he was a good player in JUCO, right? And coming out before he transferred, he's got the traits, and apparently he's been running pretty well as a boundary. So I think this is a guy who can win on traits and athleticism, which is something that Wink values, and he can earn himself a back end spot. I don't know how he translates on special teams yet. I imagine
he's fast. Is he fast?
He's pretty quick. I have to go back and look at his pro day numbers, but I think he ran like a mid-4s kind of thing.
Okay.
Mid-4s.
Because he's a big dude, 6'3".
He's a big dude.
He's
he's probably not very specific for a boundary corner. UDFA, but I think it's his size and his length that matter. So if you're playing press on it. So for example, if you have an injury, you got to go up against Traylon Burks week 1, right? Big dude out of Arkansas, who's in Tennessee. He's the kind of guy whose size can match up for the 2 to 3 seconds that Wink needs to get to the quarterback. So he's a guy I'm looking for. I hope he gets reps. And other guys, there's a couple of other guys that I was curious about. I haven't heard his name a lot, but Chris Hinton was a guy I was curious about out of Michigan. Plays the nose. I think he's been buried. He may not make the team, but I was kind of curious if he would do anything. I do want to see Dex in that nose tackle role. I don't know how much they're going to showcase him. I've always wanted him to be a nose tackle, but I am looking
Everybody
forward to that.
wanted him to be a nose tackle. Yep.
Yeah. So mostly, I'm looking at how the defense actually translates in game situations, and on offense, again, it's just, is Jones going to be okay, or is it going to be another disaster?
And we might not even see the real defense too. So I want people not to panic on that, because again, there's a chance that Wink might just go vanilla on it. Go ahead, Manny.
I just real quick on Darren Evans' numbers in his pro day, he had about a 4.51 on his pro day.
Okay.
Granted, 6'3", so
right.
He's all 6'3". He 179 pounds, 33 and a half inch arms, 77 and a half wingspan. He's long and lanky, and 4.51 for his. It's not as fast for a cornerback, but for a dude his size, that's still pretty impressive.
He's a big boundary matchup guy. He's not a guy who's going to run over the middle of the field like a Cordell Flott. And I think Cordell Flott he only ran a 4 out of pro day, but his 10-yard split was quick. And where Cordell Flott was outstanding was in his shuttle and his cone drills, where as a change of direction guy in nickel. I think he's a little bit different, but I like Evans as a backup boundary guy.
Right.
Flock is going to be a guy who we haven't heard nothing from, so hopefully we'll see him and he looks decent in preseason. Brandon, give me what are you looking forward to this week 1 preseason for the Giants?
First off, Sal, I like that you were like, oh, LSU's the real DBU, because the guy that helped make them DBU, Corey Raymond, he's now the highest cornerbacks coach right here at the University of Florida.
That's right. There you
have all these guys you named, he made them, so I'm ready for that. But I'm similar to Manny and Sal. I'm looking into the secondary for this at the depth, guys. I want to see Yusuf Corker out of Kentucky is someone that I really want to see. You know, he's not a physical freak. He's not. I mean, he is like high football IQ. He is a green dot caliber player. He's just got that amazing football IQ. He was asked to do so much at Kentucky. He was productive for so many years, and it's like he's someone who I don't think he'll ever be an above average starter. But if you can be that Michael Thomas type safety that the Giants had a few years ago, if you could just step in, contribute, and be someone that's here to play and won't screw the pooch here, I'm happy to see that. So if we're looking for a fourth, fifth safety and it's Yusuf Corker, I'm happy with it. He could be better, he could be worse. But then I'm also just to flip from the secondary, so we're not just all here in uniform. I'll say it, and it fucking pains me to say this, but Jashawn Corbin, the running back out of Florida State, is someone that, first of all, holy shit, that man should not have gone undrafted. I will say that he is a do-it-all back, and I mean, I know I've written multiple articles about him at this point where I'm just like, he should be on the roster, and not only should he be on the roster, he should be running back 3. It should go Saquon, Matt Breida, and Jashawn Corbin. You know, because you've got a runner that's Jashawn Corbin. Obviously, he's a running back. He can run the ball. You've got a receiver. Jashawn Corbin was one of the better receiving backs in college football last season. And you've also got a running back that, hear me out, because I know Giants fans aren't used to this, can actually fucking pass protect. So you've got someone there, and you've got that from a UDFA that can actually contribute. Jashawn Corbin does it all. Like, there is nothing to not like about his game. And it's similar to Cam Akers when he was coming out of Florida State, not talent-wise at all. But I'm saying in the sense of Cam Akers was a very, not difficult evaluation, but you could see the talent, but he was behind a horrible, horrible offensive line. That's the same shit with Jashawn Corbin, where it's like, you can see that he's got the talent, but he's behind a horrible O-line. You look at some of Saquon's worst years, it's like, he's Saquon Barkley. We know he's good, but his offensive line is just screwing him. And that's what happened with most Florida State running backs over the past few years. But Jashawn Corbin, especially, someone who could have been a much larger part of the offense. And as a pass protecting running back, he was one of the better ones in college football last season. So it's like you have a guy that can fill the need and he can contribute in every way offensively. I see no reason why he shouldn't make this roster. So he's someone that I'm watching and I'm gluing my eyes to the screen when he's on the field.
Brendan, I'm so glad you mentioned him because I love Corbin. I know Emory Hunt. I think he's at Giants country, right? And he had him ranked as his top overall running back in the entire draft.
Wow.
I don't know if you knew that, but he came out and said he was my number one running back in the whole country, which sounds kind of crazy, but he's good. I mean, the film holds out, and like you said, he can do it all. And he's a 3-down back, which is not something you get every day. So this is a guy. When they signed him, I was surprised that he was undrafted.
So what's the bash on him then?
You know, I think this was a very deep draft, right? I think typically like there's 600 to 700 prospects that come out in the NFL draft that are viewed as potentially draftable. I think this year it was almost like 1,000 deep. So when you're going that deep, I think with certain positions, you're probably going to have some guys fall. We should have been drafted, right? So there are guys who should have been drafted that weren't because teams start filling needs and stuff, I think. But Corbin is a guy who, thinking in the long game, I've had this discussion with others, I don't view Saquon Barkley as a running back. He is an offensive playmaker. He is a yardage and touchdown producing machine if you use him and deploy him appropriately. And since he is labeled a running back, in my opinion, he is a value player. You can sign him for a lot cheaper than you would have to pay a wide receiver to produce the same number of yards and touchdowns. That's a discussion for another day, obviously. But this is, it's one of my polls. Do you sign Saquon? But if he gives you close to 2,000 all-purpose yards and 12 touchdowns, ask yourself how many wide receivers do that, right? And what are they getting paid when they do that, right? I mean, so in any case, if you're going to try to keep a guy like Saquon who's young and talented, you do need a bell cow. And Corbin, to me, is a guy who can absolutely be your 3-down, in the backfield guy who can pass protect, and he runs right through the middle of the tackles. I mean, I love his game film. He's not a guy who's going to bounce out too much. He goes right through. It's a good change of pace back from Breida and from Saquon. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
I'm glad you guys even mentioned that to me. That guy was not even on my radar. So I'm so happy now that I'm going to be watching the entire Giants game. And because I would definitely zone out after the starters and be like, oh, yeah, no, I got to go. But I'll definitely be on top of that. I do want to see who's behind the ones in the linebacker. I want to see Beavers, and I want to see McFadden. I want to see those two guys play, and I want to see what they bring. I want to see who's gonna be doing what in kick return and punt return. I'm interested in that because that's been completely anemic for the Giants. What I'm definitely looking forward to is just seeing scheme. I want to see what the Giants look like because I'm tired of this. Everybody's saying, oh, they're going to be an outside zone. They're going to be a passing team. Now we're a couple of days away. We're 2 days away from seeing what the hell this team is going to look like. Even if it's going to be vanilla, we're going to get an idea of what their base formations or what their kind of formation they're looking forward to. And that's exciting to me because it's about time we finally get it. And the best part too for a person like me, the next day on Friday I get to see film on the Giants. I don't know if NFL is gonna have preseason film because they've been really trash when it comes to their streaming device. But did they change it? NFL Replay, whatever, NFL Game Pass. They changed their service, but hopefully there's something that you could just go ahead and digest and break down.
Yeah. Now I know the new NFL Plus has something that you can do all 22s with all the games and replays as well. So all preseason games are available. I cannot wait to sit there and watch the Giants play. Man, it's going to be nice to be able to see Kayvon get his first preseason sack and we just lose our shit.
Hey, by the way, Trayvon Walker looked really good in that Hall of Fame game. And I said that man is going to be a monster, bro. So that's another day, though. We're going to go there.
I'm not going to push that agenda.
Not yet. I got you. Don't worry about it.
We got the best edge rusher on the draft.
Hopefully, man. Hopefully. All right, man. Let's wrap this up, man. Any final thoughts? Anything you guys want to say? Throw it out there before we close this out. All right. We are good to go.
Hey,
go ahead, man.
I'll say this one thing. Training. It's good to be back on with you guys talking.
Yeah.
Good to be back talking football. We're gonna get some tape on here soon to watch, so I'm looking forward to it. And in the words of the late great Olivia Newton-John, rest her please. Like she said in Greece, these dudes better start fucking shaping up.
Yes, do it.
So
I want to know where you're going with that one. All right, guys, for Breaking Tackles, man. I'm gonna give a special shout out to Sal. You can find him at Queens_guy. Brandon with WNS_Brandon. For Manny, Agenda Pusher 58. I'm at Bree T Giants. Guys, thank you so much for coming through, man. Thank you for our guests. Manny, I'll see you, man, next week. And guys, have a great one, man.
Take care, man.